Virginia?
Yeah, and look, there's a plenty of Democratic vote. This is the Washington, D.C. suburbs. This is Richmond in the area. This is Norfolk, Virginia Beach area. Lots of Democrats. Some of these are lighter blue, which means it could be more of a mix. And we still have a lot of vote left from Roanoke and from other redder parts of the state. But yeah, you add it all up, and Reince is right to point this out, because right now there's something going on where you're just not seeing the kind of numbers that you would expect in some of these suburban areas. Biden in Prince William County, 62% of the vote. Hillary Clinton, 58%. Harris is down now to 57%. So she's still winning, just not winning by the same kind of numbers. And when you balance that out with the redder parts of the state, where you see Donald Trump racking up the big numbers over and over again, that's how you get as close as it is right now in Virginia. And just, remember how close Virginia is to North Carolina and Georgia. We're talking about similar types of voters. So the fact that they're battling it out in Virginia shouldn't really be a surprise. A lot of the folks that live there are seeing some of the same media, they're seeing some of the same advertising, and they may be responding to some of the same cross pressures. Similarly, as we talk about the blue wall that Reince was mentioning in the upper Midwest, a lot of those voters have overlap as well.
Which is why Ryan says they're not getting ahead of themselves either, because Pennsylvania so far, at least at this point, looks like it has some promising signs for the Harris campaign and their effort to try to reach suburban voters, like in the collar counties around Philadelphia, which you had showed us. She seems to be doing well, and in Allegheny County as well. Well, where do those numbers stand?
Yeah, so I show you Allegheny, which is Pittsburgh. That is just a Democratic stronghold right now. It used to be even stronger Democratic, but you've seen the numbers get a little bit higher with the last couple of elections, and with about half the vote in right now in the Pittsburgh area. Yeah, the numbers are getting hit. The 538 benchmark would suggest she's running ahead of where she needs to go. And yeah, you mentioned the Philadelphia suburbs. Still not a lot of vote in places like Chester County, but Harris is getting at least close to her numbers. Montgomery County hitting a little bit above it right now. And Bucks, I'm still watching, because that kind of margin, if that carries through the night, would be really surprising. It would bode well for her chances. We're still waiting on about 3/4 of the vote in Philadelphia, which is just a monster in that state. There's so much vote out there, and as you'd expect, Harris is carrying it handily. 112,000 votes that she's getting out of the city of Philadelphia. That's almost there's about 2/3 or 3/4 of the margin she has in the entire state right now.
Let's swing over to Rachel Scott at the other board. And Rachel, you're looking at the Senate race. I know Bob Casey looking to hold on to his seat, famous name in Pennsylvania, obviously his father in politics as well, many years ago. Dave McCormick challenging him, and where does that race stand? I saw a moment ago, it looked like he was underperforming Harris in some respects, at least in Allegheny County.
Yeah, let's take a look at where it stands statewide right now. This is how we can compare how the presidential candidates are doing at the top of the ticket to the Senate candidates in this race. So you have Vice President Kamala Harris statewide, 52%, again, very early, 30% of the vote in right now. Bob Casey also at 52%. You mentioned the area around Pittsburgh, Allegheny County. Let's take a look at where that stands and how these two compare here. You have Vice President Kamala Harris, 65%, Bob Casey, 65% as well. Also going to be looking at Scranton. He's from Scranton, home to President Joe Biden. You can see he's performing a little bit better than Vice President Kamala Harris here. And the final stretch, David, Bob Casey has been running ads in this state, really painting himself as an independent that bucked President Biden when it came to tariffs, and also sided with former President Donald Trump. He has been trying to find the middle ground here, because he is fully aware that if Vice President Kamala Harris does not do well here, it could impact his race as well.
Let's swing it out to Matt Gutman, who's on the ground in Pennsylvania. Matt, what are you hearing?
I'm hearing that it looks like Senator Casey has a very good chance here. I mean, from the beginning, Governor Josh Shapiro and others have told me that he is the most likely to win here. His father was a governor. He is the side of a very famous family here, also from Scranton, like former President Biden. And McCormick's got a big knock against him, and that is that he hasn't really lived in the state. He lives mostly in Connecticut, and that is something that apparently has affected voters here. Now, there's another thing I want to talk about, and that is the results and the timing of the results, David. I spoke to Governor Shapiro, and he's been very adamant about accuracy being first, also the vote being safe and fair. But officials here understand that they are in a race against the clock. You remember back in 2020, it took almost 5 days to tabulate the vote here. That delta between the elections and the results left all of this space for rumor and conspiracy theory, which was jumped upon by the Trump administration. That's happening again already. But this time, they aim to do it much more quickly. They have more voting machines, although they still are not allowed to pre-process the mail-in ballots until 7 a.m. on Election Day. But the state funding that goes to the counties that's tied to their election funding stipulates that they cannot stop counting once they have started until they are completely done. So they've got rotating crews going round the clock to count the votes. Most of the counties tell me they hope to have it done at some point tomorrow afternoon. One thing to look at is Erie County. At last glance, they have about only 1% in. Officials there telling me there is massive voter turnout, and because there was a snafu with their mail-in ballots, the vendor sent them to the wrong addresses. Some people didn't get them. I was told that counting the mail-in ballots could take an additional days, possibly even weeks. So that could take a long time. And of course, Erie County is a pivotal swing county that has swung from side to side over the past several elections, Dave.
Yeah, one of those boomerang counties we're going to be watching very closely here up in the northwestern part of Pennsylvania. Matt, thanks so much. Let's go to the wall here. You can see the three blue wall states right up there right now. Kamala Harris with a lead early in the night in all three of those states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, all about the same margin, by the way, 52 to 47 Pennsylvania, a similar lead in Michigan, and with 18% of the vote in Wisconsin, 51-47. Lindsay, I know we're getting some exit poll data from voters, how independents are breaking in these so-called three blue wall states or Rust Belt